plane crash that claimed the lives of the Chief of Army Staff, among some others. We'll talk about that next.
Indeed, there have been a lot of talk since the Chief of Army Staff sadly passed away in the air accident that happened in Kaduna. Himself and a number of other senior generals in the Nigerian military, and also the crew who were also members of the Nigerian Airforce who sadly died in that crash that happened in Kaduna on Friday evening. And there have been a lot of talk around what could have happened, what went wrong, is the military spending the right amount of money on its aircraft? Should there be an investigation into the type of aircraft that is being used? Well, we have somebody in the studio to help shed light on this matter with us right now. Retired Group Captain Sadiq Shehu is with us in our Abuja studios. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
And our condolences to you, because we know that the late Chief of Army Staff was a classmate of yours while you were in the military school. But how did the news of his death come to you and that of your colleagues?
Thank you very much, Maokbe. Yes, late Ibrahim Atahir was a classmate of mine. By the grace of God, there are many of us of 35th Regular Corps still alive that joined the Nigerian Defense Academy on the 19th of January 1984. The news came to me as a rude shock because I was with the late Atahir in Ibadan for a Nigerian Army training seminar on Wednesday. He said he was going back to Makodi because there was the Nigerian Air Force Day celebration as well. He left there, we exchanged pleasantries, took some pictures with some of our classmates that were in the Ibadan area who had also come to greet him, mostly those out of uniform. That was the last. On Friday in the evening, somebody just called me. Please, could you confirm there's an air accident? To be honest, up to then, I didn't hear anything. I said, okay, give me some minutes. I will make calls, and I will certainly find out if there is anything. As fate would have it, before I could even call the first person I wanted to ask, an army officer called me to tell me this actually what happened. So it was not, as of that time, it was not whether it is true or not, but what is the state of the air crash? Is it fatal? How many people were on board? And the rest, and the rest. Of course, eventually we came to learn the bad story. So what I will say is to wish his families my condolences, his wife, Fatih Atahir, and all our classmates and his relatives and friends. It's a very sad loss, and may his soul rest in peace.
Amen. But I'm sure that you have been, inquiring also into what could have happened. We heard that there was bad weather. Initially, they were supposed to land in Mando area of Kaduna. They couldn't land, and then they had to go back to the Kaduna airport. Still, it was seen that what they were trying to prevent by not landing where they had seen earlier, now tragically happened in the Kaduna airport. A number of questions around it, even though, yes, we're still going to wait for full investigations into the matter. But preliminarily, what do you think could have been responsible for that crash?
First, as professionals, and to be fair to all that is concerned, I like the fact that you underlined, and I will also underline the fact that there is a board that has been set up to investigate, these issues. So generally, in commenting, since this incident, I have refrained, from making categorical statement about this is what caused it, and because that would be preempting investigation. You are not part of the investigation team. You are not in the aircraft. You are not part of the flight planning. However, when such things happen, because of the magnanimity of the disaster, because of the personalities involved, because of also this accident is coming on the back of other accidents, definitely people will express opinion. But what I would like to underline in expressing opinion, it is good to remain within the general realm. That is, in general, what causes aircraft accidents. We could pick from experience, from literature. Some of us have done a little flying training. And also, of course, since the incident happened, as people who are interested first in finding the root cause so that it does not happen again. You call people of higher experience, aircraft investigators, other aviation experts to hear what they have got to say. Of course, you'll pass your judgment on them. But what I would caution anybody doing is to say this particular accident was caused by this and that. It's only after that, you know, probable, and unfortunately, these accidents take long. There will be a preliminary report, I have to warn people, and then the final report. Final report, usually from practice, will come over 12 months. The final definitive report. Mostly by that time, people have even forgotten about the accident. That is the sad thing about it. But that is the procedure. Having said that, based on experience and what we know, and based on studies, we could speculate or say in general what causes accidents. Accidents of aircrafts are generally caused by 2 or 3 factors. The most prominent is human error. When we say human error now, in general, in accidents, in aircraft accidents, 80% of aircraft accidents were caused by human error. Human error now, it could be the pilot, but not only the pilot. Air traffic control could be part of human error. The engineers or the technicians that were supposed to check the aircraft before the aircraft is taken could be part of the human error. I emphasize it because when human error, people automatically say pilot error. No, human error. All the human, many people are involved in certifying an aircraft is even okay before you take the flight. The air traffic controller, you know, will check weather, will check the traffic pattern and advise. Sometimes it's the air traffic controller that even averts an accident. Because while the pilot, depending on his experience, is fixed on monitoring his equipment, he might mistake outside visual cues. The air traffic controller up there, which is binoculars or other visual devices, might see something. For example, there have been many instances where it is the air traffic controller that says, because he knows an aircraft when it's about to land, it will bring out its landing gear. Sometimes it is the air traffic controller that says that, say, please, your landing gear is not down. So that is human error. The other 20%, you could attribute it to weather, like you said, and then you could, sometimes people say act of God, where so many things. But however, again, in air traffic, air accident investigation, experience has shown that any one accident is actually contributed by a variety of factors, remote causes culminating in that last straw that broke the camel's back. So when you go back in most accidents, you will see lapses. Human error, again, by the way, are categorized into 3. There are slips and lapses. Slips and lapses, this is where we're talking of. Procedures are there, but they were not followed. There's human error that is based on skills. That is, the pilot is thrusted on him upon situations for which he does not have the adequate training and experience to handle. And then there is poor judgment. What is poor judgment? The man is well trained, he has followed all procedures, something happens. A pilot only has a split second to decide, do I push the right rudder? Do I push the left rudder? Do I turn right? Do I turn left? He only has split seconds
to make that decision. Indeed, those decisions, I mean, those questions, I mean, are very valid, especially when you look, I mean, you also acknowledge the fact that in the last couple of, at least this year alone, we've had at least 3 crashes. And we're still just in May. We've not even entered June. So there are huge questions around that. And then when you now look at the fact that 11 military aircrafts have crashed in the last 6 years. There are those who have been, you know, drawing attention to the fact that should the NCA begin to regulate military aircrafts as well? I mean, do you think that they should have a role in that? Because there have been questions as to how can we, and maybe as you rightly said, the personality now involved in this is bringing this to the fore. The number of issues have come up, the frequency of the crashes, the experience of the pilot, you know, who was carrying the chief of army staff. Do you want to quickly comment on that?
Yes, I would love, because again, in the opinion so far expressed, of course, people have different opinions.
Yes.
And I also have mine. I have heard some people, maybe not on your media, talking about the pilots, what is their rank, what is their experience. First, I will have to say there's a lot to be said about that argument. It is not really about rank. It's really about experience and the required training. The pilots are all flight lieutenants. So by a rough calculation, these are people who have been in the service for 12 years. I think they're about 39 years old.
That's the equivalent of captains. In the Nigerian army.
Yes, they have spent like you know, probably 8-10 years in the Air Force. And again, we have to ask what makes a captain. Is it age? First, to be a pilot, just like driving license, there's a minimum age. Once you enter that minimum age, what makes you a second officer, a first officer, a pilot in command is the number of hours you have flown. On the average, for somebody to reach the status like Flight Lieutenant Asanyi, who is the pilot in command. Here I'm talking of transport flying. You know, there are transport pilots, which is different from combat pilot flying. In transport flying, you expect somebody to be a captain on the average after grossing minimum of 1,500 hours. You do exam, both practical and written, to be rated a pilot. So when we look at that, has Asanyi and Olufade reached that minima? From my own investigations, I find that Asanyi has flown 2,450 hours on that type of aircraft.
The Beechcraft? The
Beechcraft. So definitely, if you are talking about flight hours to be a captain, he has reached it. The other issue you have to ask, experience. What we mean experience now is age to make judgment. Again, yes, some people have said that somebody like a flight lieutenant of that rank should not be flying a high personality. Well, there are things to be said for that, while not being completely true, but there are things to look into. What do I mean? Look at the military institution as a first thing. There is this African adage that a young man can have more clothes than an old man, but you cannot have more rags like an old man. Sometimes experience is built over the years. There's also another aviation saying.
So do you agree that, you know, I'm trying to be very sensitive because let's not forget that these people had families and they also lost their lives in the process. So,
definitely. And nobody enters an aircraft to be a suicide
exactly.
pilot. Yes.
I mean, unless you belong to Boko Haram.
Yes, yes.
So that's why I'm trying to be sensitive. However, looking at it objectively, because the essence of this analysis is to also bring closure, and also for the country to know that, you know, the right judgments are being taken by the hierarchy of the military institutions.
Exactly.
So the question is, if you look at it objectively, do you think that people of their rank and experience should have been flying someone of the rank and cadre of the Chief of Army Staff?
Well, I've just told you what a pilot is supposed to gross number of hours.
So they have that qualification.
So on that, they have that.
Yes.
Then we look at the age.
Yes, the age.
In all honesty, with due respect to the not too young to run, that is the issue. Sometimes there are people who believe that you can be a leader at any time. But then there are people again who believe that leadership should come after getting some life experiences. Therefore, so those people who make that claim, they are not completely wrong. You get the point? Now, I look at it in the aspect of a military.
So you wouldn't have made that judgment call? You wouldn't have put them there as...
Especially looking at global best practice. When you look in commercial airlines, again, I emphasize, even though these are military pilots, they are transport pilots. I think in putting in safety, it's good to equivalent the military pilots who are doing... VIP, this and transport pilot, with what obtains in the civil. In the civil, the average of a pilot of command is 45 to 50 years. There's a reason for that. Any pilot you ask Maope, who has flown, will tell you there were days that he came out drenched in sweat because he knew it was a close call. It is this near misses and misses that eventually the pilot draws when he is in a tight corner. We might debate that at 29 years, even though they have met that minimum requirement of being this thing, do they have experience, especially in a military environment? Why? In aviation, Maupe, the pilot is the commander-in-chief, irrespective of the
cadre of the person
he's calling.
He's carrying.
I have incidents where a pilot at Federal Controller has told the president, sir, we are not flying today. Now, it is only age
that can give
the pilot. This is why I come on that. It's only age. This is a lieutenant general. This is a flight lieutenant. With that lack of rank, there will be tendency to force it. I am carrying a VIP. I must take him. I don't want to disrupt this thing. But an older pilot with the gap of rank, not that too much, maybe probably, this is my own thinking, he would have more confidence to say, Chief of Army Staff, sir, this flight, we cannot take it.
On that note, we'll take a break at this point, and we'll be back shortly. Please stay with us. Well, retired Group Captain Sadiq Show is still with us in the studio, and we're talking about the reasons why the aircraft carrying the late Chief of Army Staff, Ibrahim Matahiro, could have crashed in Kaduna. Let me also bring your attention to the fact, to the aircraft itself. There have been safety concerns around the Beechcraft, and they have mentioned the fact that I think even the Nigerian military has lost NAF 201 crashed February 21 this year. NAF 203 crashed May 21 this year. And these aircrafts were recently bought. And then they have also, some journalists have done the thorough work of seeing how that type of aircraft, the Beechcraft, has crashed in some other countries, all of them in recent times. Do you think that we should take a second look at the Beechcraft aircraft?
Thank you very much. Countries or airlines or militaries, when they are going to buy an aircraft, they check the history of the aircraft. There is the economic side, there is the maintenance side, there is the safety side. The Beechcraft, with due respect, as opposed to what you mentioned, as an aircraft, has a very good safety record. The aircraft was first manufactured in 1962. And since the first one was manufactured, there has been series and upgrades up to 2021, the latest Beechcraft. But they're all under the Beechcraft version. Just like you have 407, 308 Peugeot. That's how they come in. On average, there are about 3,100 pieces
of the Beechcraft.
This number signifies a good aircraft. Just like you could easily say, if you stay on the road now in Nigeria, you'll probably count 20 Toyotas before you count any other vehicle. For the fact that Nigerian users have used it in terms of maintenance costs, is the same thing with the aircraft. The fact that 3,100 pieces have been bought shows that the people who are buying them are not stupid. So relatively,
it doesn't mean that mistakes cannot have been made in a particular
I'm coming to that.
Yes.
Relatively, it is a safe aircraft. From that 1962 to date, there are how many? 523 accidents or air misses. What I mean, it didn't go up to accident, but it's a close shave involving
the Beechcraft.
Different versions of Beechcraft. But what did investigations find? Most of the accidents involved with Beechcraft had nothing to do with its engine, had nothing to do with its propeller or other thing. It had to do with pilot error.
More specifically, pilot error, not even human error.
Pilot error and weather are the most common in all these 523. Yes, it has had them from 1962 to now, 1963, when the first Beechcraft flew. So, but it is on record that most of this, and so we come back to this analysis. It's good you bring this, the aircraft, how good it is. There are aircraft that didn't last long. They were phased out because they were, in technical terms, what you call widowmaker.
I mean, we've seen the Challenger, Boeing is going through with this.
Some aircraft were called the widowmaker
in the civilian sector.
Of the accident, and people will not buy them. Because there are people who keep these records, on how the records of safety, this thing. And a potential buyer, that's one of the things he check, in addition to price.
So if the problem is not with the aircraft, is it with the safety procedures of the Nigerian Air Force? And those who are now saying that the NCAA should intervene and take a look at safety in the Nigerian military.
Good.
Is that a good suggestion for you?
Come back to what we are saying. It's good you started with the aircraft. The aircraft definitely, as aircraft goes, the Beechcraft is not a dangerous aircraft. So we have to go to other options. The human factor in terms of training and experience, or procedures, or weather. These are the other areas. With respect to NIA, I think probably this one good thing that I have to commend the Nigerian Air Force for doing, bringing the involved. By tradition, or by general decision, accidents involving military aircraft is only done by the military aircraft. But we have reached a stage where we have to bring in this concept of independent investigation. Because right now we are thinking, and I think the Air Force has to be recommended for that. And I think it's good practice. The purpose, I want people to understand, the purpose of investigation is not necessarily to punish or to disgrace. We should not lose sight of the purpose of investigation. Is to ensure it does not occur by identifying the root causes and stopping them from happening.
Well, Group Captain, sadly we've run out of time. I think it's a fine place to leave it. We have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on the matter.